Touch base with the big corporate of the day as well. Amit Kalyani, who's Executive Director at Bharat, joins in to talk about business. They've acquired a 35% stake in Tevva Motors. He's here to discuss more about that. Amit, it's great to have you on the show. This is our third major acquisition in the EV space. Talk to us about the stake you've acquired in Tevva Motors, the synergies you expect to draw from this acquisition, and how it really fits in with your overall scheme of expanding in the e-mobility space.
Yeah, so, as we've spoken about over the past 2 years, we've been working on a comprehensive strategy for the e-mobility space to develop products and solutions so that we can supply into the e-mobility revolution as it we first started organically by developing capabilities and knowledge within our own ecosystem. Then we set up a R&D center in the UK to further get into the global ecosystem on what's happening with e-mobility. Followed that up with a investment in a two-wheeler company which is based in India, actually in Pune, which makes powertrain and has the whole cloud-based system for managing the charging, discharging, and the overall e-mobility part of the vehicles.
Right. How are you looking to leverage, this acquisition in terms of the overall, investment that you're going to make in R&D? Because it would be, a long gestation sort of a business. So how are you looking at spanning, your investments over a period of time?
Yeah, so, we've begun building or assembling the building blocks of the whole EV strategy. As I mentioned, the R&D center in the UK, the investment in Torque in India, the investment in Tevva, and our whole lightweighting center, which we're setting up in Andhra Pradesh, are all the building blocks of supplying into the EV space. As you know, there is a huge move towards lightweighting when it comes to hybrid and electric vehicles because of the added weight of the battery systems. And additionally, we want to now get into supplying new kinds of components, new kinds of subsystems and systems into the EV space, and that's what we will learn and be able to experiment with and eventually perfect in a few years with both Torque and Tevva being part of our ecosystem, along with the research center in Myra.
Amit, after a gap of nearly 3 decades, the government is set to raise the maximum axle load of heavy vehicles by 20 to 25%. Tell me about the impact expected, given that you're also highly dependent on CVs for driving your revenues, as I understand.
While we do have a fair amount of revenue coming from CV, it is not India CV specific. India CV is a small part of our business, and the axle side of the business, what has happened is the new technology vehicles are significantly more advanced than the previous vehicles. They are far more robust, they are far better designed with better aggregates and do have better load carrying capacity coupled with better quality of roads, which leads to the ability to carry more loads. So I think this is a natural. You will start seeing now more heavier vehicles coming into the onto the roads, as you've already seen the transition happen. And I think this gives the opportunity for suppliers like us who already have the supply capability of supplying to bigger and heavier vehicles across the world to use that capability and knowledge to supply into these markets as well.
Right. I have to, Amit, talk about the North America truck market. The demand there has grown exponentially over the last year or so. Walk us through the kind of tonnage growth that you've seen in North America and what's the outlook there. Would you be able to sustain these kind of growth numbers?
North America, as you know, we've seen a very strong growth. The numbers, both quarter on quarter and YOY, are strong. I think they're at almost close to peak levels. But the North American market and its infrastructure build, I think, will continue and should continue to give a fairly robust demand going ahead as well. And there is, every sector in North America is firing on all cylinders. Manufacturing is coming back, so it should be a good sign.
So the 30,000 plus units since October last year, you're saying you'll better that? What are the key triggers that lie ahead which could push demand?
I'm not saying anything of the kind. All I'm saying is that we are on a very high trajectory, and right now the demand seems strong, and the underlying factors leading to the demand also are very promising.
Okay, and what part of your revenues come from the direct business with North America's Class 8 trucks?
About 20%.
And what about Europe? How's the demand looking like there?
Europe is also solid. It's very stable. Europe is also about roughly about, I would say, 17-18%.
Okay. Amit, tell me the capacity levels that you're operating at and what's the capex lined up for FY19 further?
So we have we are running at about 85% capex, and we're right now in the middle of roughly about a 400 crore capex program, which is basically for passenger car and for machining and one forging line as well to increase our capacity in order to allow for the growth that we anticipate in our global markets.
Okay. Amit, so FY18, your secured orders worth about 700 crore rupees across segments. What's the inflow expected this year? And how has the first half of the fiscal year been so far?
I don't like giving guidance on those figures, and you've seen a lot of news coverage about people saying guidance should not be given. So I don't want to go down that path, but I will just say that business is strong, and we expect to continue growing. Very strong growth in this year as well, going into next year.
And what's the export growth you're targeting by the end of the year, given that you've been clocking exponential growth?
It'll be pretty substantial.
All right, Amit, thanks very much for joining us and giving us more details about that acquisition. We wish you the very best for the future.